3:07 p.m. Mabel's time, Thursday, April 13th, year 947, aboard the Long Night of Solace. After dumping our jetpacks in a crate bound for the catwalks where we got them, we followed the thumping footsteps of the war machine, and the damaged floors it left, until we came to the steam lab. When the doors parted, a layer of steamy mist coated the floor on the lower section. We waded through it and climbed the 2 stairs to the upper section, where Halsey was waiting. The war machine had already stepped back onto its pedestal and powered down, giving her time to pull up the specifics on what she was doing to my ship. We leaned against built-in tool benches as the report came on screen. A list of specific upgrades and maintenance procedures began scrolling. Halsey began reading off specific ones. Star drive efficiency upgrades, time drive refuel, crystal restock, power conduit maintenance, Stargate close-op macro upgrade, tower connector maintenance, hull repairs, AI matrix upgrade. The list was longer than I'd expected. "Will you look at all that stuff?" I said. "We have done quite a bit of research as to what we can do to city ship-class starships. There's a lot going into your upgrade." "Thanks a bunch, Catherine." I patted her on the shoulder. She replied with a stern look. Then, without warning, her gaze shifted suddenly past me. A thought hit me. Where was the doctor? Then I heard Catherine moan, "Oh no," followed by, "War Machine, put him down." I whirled around to see the war machine holding the ninth by the neck, about 2 feet off the floor. It slowly lowered him to the deck on Halsey's command, and released its clamp on his throat. He let in a huge gasp, kneeling on the ground. "Got one hell of a grip, he does," were the first words out of his mouth. "Yes," Halsey replied, "he does. We engineered him to combat any life form he comes across, if need be." "And he decided to target you," I finished. Halsey turned to me, arms crossed. There had to be a reason why. "Doctor?" He looked at us sheepishly. I was just kind of fiddling with his gears. She sighed and ran her palm down her face. "Don't. Just don't." "I won't. Not anymore," he smiled, pulling himself off of the floor. He brushed himself off while I snagged a copy of Deveraux' changelog. "So," he began again, trying to segue, "want to go get a drink now?" "I think we're all set here," I said. "Halsey, want to come with?" She gave a light smirk. "I think I'll pass, Ellis. I'll let you know when the job is done." Moments later, I was at a table with Darren, Nick, and a very woozy Alec, clinking my Shirley Temple with the doctor's glass. 4:49 p.m. Mabel's time, Thursday, April 13th, year 947, aboard the Long Night of Solace. After an hour and a half of stories, drinks, and an early dinner, I received a message from Halsey stating, in short, that the upgrades to Deveraux were complete. The doctor was leaning back in his chair, Nick was slouched, and Darren was leaning on her elbow, and Alec looked like he was about to fall asleep. We were all exhausted from the food, and I almost didn't want to leave. Either way, we had a job to do. "Well," I said, clearing my throat, "I think we're all done here." I rose from the table. Everyone perked up, and the doctor gathered his coat. "They're finished already?" Darren asked. "Everything important is completed. They're just getting to turning everything back on." "Oh, cool. Let's go." "Yeah," Alex stood up. "And don't we have something to do?" The doctor smiled. "Ah, someone remembers." "I remembered too," I said as I turned towards the exit. "We need to talk to some random people about stuff that you can't fit in the TARDIS's door." "Don't make fun of my TARDIS," he shot back. Everyone else caught up to me as I turned into the hallway. "I'll make fun of whatever I want. Freedom of speech, Doc." I only called him Doc when I wanted to aggravate him. This began a good-natured verbal battle that lasted all the way into Deveraux, and only ended when I had to abandon the fight, so that I could use my mental power to safely enter the time vortex. Once we were steadily moving through time, I turned on the comm and said, "New Deveraux definitely beats TARDIS now." "Oh, no, he began, but Darren interjected. "Honestly, the ride is 100 times smoother," she noted. "My board's keys aren't chipped, and the life signs detector works perfectly," Nick added. "And I think I can hear you guys at least 10 times better," I finished. Also, we hopped into the vortex a hell of a lot quicker. Alex started us off again, and then continued on his own. The sensors can now see any affected events that we pass. The shields are a lot more apt to modulate, and we got a weapon frequency matcher from the Destiny schematics. Darren threw in. The star drives got tuned up, the time drives are refilled, and I think they fixed all the lights in here, Sarah added, appearing out of nowhere in my chair room. They did a lot. That's only the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. All right, I get it. The doctor relented. Conceding defeat already? I asked. I don't think it's a battle I can win. If I had some sort of streamers or poppers or fireworks I could use when I won an argument with you, I'd use them now. Actually, we should get some fireworks, Alec noted out of the blue. Why do we need fireworks? The conversation was immediately sidetracked. He stopped for a moment. Because of... He was struggling. Because of the repairs, obviously. Celebration. From the background, Darren sarcastically asked, You just want to blow something up, don't you? I see no problem with that, Nick replied. I don't either, I interjected. Sarah, put firework acquisition on my to-do list. Done, she noted. All right, I sighed. More to do when we get home. Plotting a course to B8 1108, ETA 20 minutes. The city's time vortex shifted, the clouds rearranging in order to guide us to our new destination. A blue giant star system, 3 rocky worlds and 5 gas giants. 2 major asteroid belts and a single colony of humans. Out just inside the first asteroid belt was an enormous solar station, 25 square kilometers of photovoltaic cells, spread out over a dozen miles. A system designed to absorb and transmit power back to the colony. I had to be precise. The doctor wanted me to give these guys a show, so I felt obligated to drop out as close to the array as was safely possible. 17 minutes later, the familiar blue indicator appeared again. Instead of doing what was right and slowing power gradually, I waited until the last second to pull all of the power from the drives. Everyone prepare to drop out and hold on to something. Oh! I heard someone in the control room say, and then everything went impossibly white. My ears rang. The crack of static electricity between the shield and the star's solar wind filled the air. That's new, I noted. The crackling faded as the shield modulated. We had just spontaneously dropped out of the time vortex barely 20 miles from the solar array. It was shaped like an enormous snowflake, and the blue panels sparkled, adding to the icy illusion. Then something else blue caught my eye. It was Sarah, leaning in the doorway. Hey, they wired me in a lot better, she said. You don't have to sit in that chair all day anymore. At least not right now. We're on a docking course. All right, then. I'm heading up to the control room. I stood, then thought for a moment and added, Exactly how well are you tied in now? Enough to make any intruder worried. Or me, I added. I stepped off of the chair's platform, headed for the door. Sarah followed, shimmering as she crossed the threshold. You know, she said gleefully, a virus's purpose is to collect information. I began to object, but she continued. An artificial intelligence lives off information. It's like oxygen. So using me as a virus was a perfect idea, because if I don't do my job, I suffocate, so to speak. How does this relate to you being the NSA around here with the cameras? I'm saying I'm doing my job, what I was programmed for. That's wonderful. Don't stalk me. Don't worry. I won't. I stepped into the elevator, and before I could press a single button, I was zapped to my destination. The doors slid open, and Sarah was waiting for me. I can't say I didn't enjoy not having to do anything. I knew you would. I continued straight down the hallway into the lower area of the Stargate room, turned to my right, and climbed the grand staircase to the control room. The view screen had already been activated, and the doctor was standing with his hands behind his back, leaning on a console, talking to a gruff older man over the comm. As I stepped onto the overhang that signified the edge of the control room, I heard Darren say, "And here he is now." On the screen I saw an ageless man with creases stretching down his face. His old blue eyes held the same smile that the rest of his expression gave, and his hair, just beginning to turn gray, was cut rather short. He cocked his head and looked around. I approached and stood in front of the monitor. "You the captain of that there vessel?" he said with a Texan drawl. "Yes, I am," I responded proudly. "Pilot, too." "Aw, damn, man, that was one hell of an entrance." "I try," I shrugged. "I'm Admiral Temelio, by the way, but call me Ellis." "All right. My name's Jacob Wretch, if you were wondering. These here colleagues of mine are Gregory Thownes and Skyfall. Well, we call him that. His name's Deveraux." I looked into the background of the bright camera feed and saw two other men standing with him. On his left, my right, there was a red-haired, round-faced man with rather pale skin. Opposite him there was another man, dark hair and dark eyes, average build. After a few moments, though, I noticed something that wasn't quite right. "Why do you call him that?" He pointed to the man on his left. "'Cause apparently he fell from the sky. Parents found him in some sort of pod in a cornfield." "That's different, definitely." I had noticed Dreven had pointed ears. It was over 300 years before first contact with the Vulcans would happen. Yet this was either a Vulcan or a Romulan who apparently fell from the stars as a child. More research would have to be done. "I'm on a docking track," I said, changing the subject. "What door should we use?" He turned to his colleagues and announced, "Line 'em up a port!" They scurried off, and moments later we were receiving a transmission. "Use these cords to line yourself up. We'll be waiting at the door." "All right. Sarah, guide us in." "Working on it." The city shifted and slid silently towards the center of the solar array. One of our external doors prepared its interlocking clamps and connection shield. A small screen on a nearby console showed our distance and time from our destination, as well as our relative speed. A short while later we ground to a halt, fully interfaced with the enormous but delicate station. I left the control room with the doctor in tow, and we met Jacob, Gregory, and Dreven at the doors. "Pleasure to meet you all," the doctor said, and shook each of their hands. I stepped forward to do the same, and noticed a stark difference in height. While Gregory was about my size, Dreven was a few inches taller than me, and Jacob towered at least half a foot over my lowly stature. Nonetheless, I shook each of their hands. "You the Admiral?" Jacob asked. "That I am." "Thought you'd be taller," he muttered. Following this up with a smile, he added, "Come with me." We advanced through the hatch into a panorama of perfect white. The lighting was impeccably bright and joyous. No doubt a consequence of the fact that there was no shortage of power here. We passed potted plants, openings to other endless passageways and battery rooms, and finally came to a door marked Auxiliary Storeroom, number 3. "Here's what we told you about," said Gregory, his voice tinted by an unmistakable Irish accent. "From what I've heard, you didn't tell us much," I noted. "We had to make sure you'd come no matter what," Dreven threw in. Vulcan logic, I thought to myself. "Well, I can't wait to see what it is." The door slid open and the lights clicked on. The room, a stark contrast from the pure white corridors, was gray. The girders that were originally used in its construction were uncovered and visible on the walls. A white vapor clung to the floor, and 6 large stasis chambers stood, 3 on each side of the room. "What in blazes?" I let out. "Who are these people? Why are they here?" "Take a look for yourselves," Jacob began, but the doctor was already scouring over the first, looking for a nameplate. When he found it, he announced, "General Jonathan Arturo II? My God, this is awesome! We need a good 23rd century figure. Also, he was one of the greatest strategists of his time. Honestly squandered, born in a time of peace." He moved on to the next one, and, having knowledge of where it would be, found the nameplate instantly, and said Dr. Kelly Gorgon, Ph.D. in astrophysics, bachelor's degree in quantum physics, an excellent scientist. So, I turned back to Dreven, having been distracted by the doctor's outbursts. Why are these great men and women preserved in your cryopods? It is our duty, and the duty of this installation, to preserve the deceased minds that could alter the future, in the case that there is one day technology to revive them. It hadn't struck me that they were dead until he mentioned it. "Hey, Doc!" I shouted down the room. "They're dead!" "Not a problem," came the reply. "If you're supposed to be preserving them, what right do you have to pawn these chambers off on us?" "Well," Jacob began, stepping back into the room, "that's where it gets complicated. We recently elected a new head of the UNSC. With that, they gained knowledge of these 6 corpuscles in here. They don't like 'em. Want us to eject 'em into the sun. But I did some figuring, and supposed that we could do a bit better than that. And so could these guys and gals." The doctor, having completed his circuit of the room, came back to the doorway and seamlessly entered the conversation. "That's what we need to talk about, though," he said. "What it is you want for these frozen geniuses." "From what I know of your organization, the TTO, you don't screw with how the universe works. You try and keep it how it is. We all have different motives for what we're going to ask for, but I'm almost certain that it boils down to stuff that's very similar. I, for one, am colorblind. Nothing I can do about that. When I was younger, dreamt of being a pilot till they found out. I just want to make a difference out there. I can settle for not flying, I just want to help people." He nodded to Gregory to take his turn. I never really found my calling. I always wanted to learn about people, though. Cultures, races. How the world went on before starships and cell phones. To learn and teach." His voice trailed off, not sure how to continue. "Due to my unique background, I was unable to apply to the universities I wished to be enrolled in," Drevin said. "No law schools would take me, forcing me to pass up the opportunity to be a politician of any kind." I made a mental note. Vulcan politician? The first honest lawmaker in the history of the world. Rethinking it, he continued, "I believe I would enjoy the position of ambassador." There was a moment of silence. "You're all in luck," the doctor said. They stared at him. He continued, excited. "You can all be exactly what you want, working with us." "You need sociologists?" Gregory asked. "Or ambassadors?" Drevin added. "Despite what you may have heard," I told them, "we aren't only a run-and-gun, shoot-'em-up organization. While that happens a lot, we're still all-encompassing. There's diplomacy to be had, knowledge centers to be filled, and children to be taught. While we can't take you now, expect to see us later in your lives. Is that a good deal?" "You want us to work with you?" Drevin seemed confused. "Of course. We need everyone we can get. The universe is a big place with a lot of stuff going wrong all the time. It takes a lot to solve every problem we come across." This is better than I could have hoped for," Jacob smiled. "Working with the TTO? Amazing!" Gregory shouted. "Isn't it fantastic?" the 9th replied. "When do we begin?" "You start when you die," I said plainly. All excitement came to an abrupt end, and put me on the receiving end of several blank stares. "Yeah, you'll have to wait before you begin work," the doctor began. "In order to not disrupt the timeline, we take people at the very end of their life cycles." "Well, what good are we to you if we're 90 years old and about to die? Or dead?" Jacob mused. I laughed. "You won't stay that way if we take you. We can de-age people, repair their telomeres, make them look, feel, and be younger. I'm almost a decade over 2 centuries, and how old do I look?" 14. "Well, you're close. I'm 16. "Well, damn, you still had me fooled." "What about the cryo chambers?" "Have anything to move them with?" "Old suit of prototype power armor. Can lift a good couple of tons." "Is that how you got him in here?" "Yeah, but the guy who piloted him moved on. Doesn't work here anymore. Although, he was about your size." "Gregory's about my size," I defended. Gregory gained a worried look as Jacob's gaze turned between him and I several times. Finally, Jacob turned to me, smiled, and said, "You're the one who wants to—" "Fine, I'll do it. Where's the suit?" "Another storeroom. Come with me."